Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I have Darren Walker, who is an executive coach with me, and Franco, who sells insurance and does a lot of financial planning, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I guess I'll start with you, Franco. You just had something on your mind that you wanted to tell me about. So how did you get into the business? And I think you live in Florida, correct?
Yes, I live in Florida,
Okay.
and yeah, I can work any state because I have license to work different states. So yeah.
Okay. So how did you get into it? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
About the business?
Yeah, or how you got into it, maybe
Yeah,
the story behind it, and then what you enjoy about it.
sure. When I was in my 30s, my best friend had his father passing away. So at that time, his father was doing life insurance and he was very successful. And I didn't know really anything about life insurance. So my friend started to talk to me and he shared many stories on what they did with the money when they received the proceeds. So I was having a training without asking for that and without not knowing. And then, like a year or later, he said, there's a space that my father left on the business. And I was thinking that because you love to talk to people and, maybe it's an opportunity for you. Would you like to take it? And I said, of course, of course. So I started 23 years ago. I had a successful career until now, and it's still successful. And what I always say is, for the first 10, 12 years, the only thing that I was doing was selling. By the year 12, I received the first check, and I had to take this check to someone, to a family. And at that very moment, I understood what I was doing for the last decade. So I completed the circle, and I'm very passionate about helping people with their finances.
Just making sure that people are taken care of when something happens, basically.
Yes, definitely. And we're not talking, Brian, about death. One of the things that I focus on is not only death. I mean, if you're not in the position to go to work tomorrow because you're having some serious illness or some disability, it's going to be even worse financially speaking because you're not going to be in the position to make money. But at the same time, you're going to need more money than the money that you need usually. So someone will have to pay for that. So if it's not you or your assets, it can be a life insurance company that for an exchange of a little premium, they can do anything you need.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people use life insurance companies to just back assets, and didn't know that until just recently. But I'm still fairly uneducated about it, so I'm sure you know a lot more about it than I do. But that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yes, there are many uses. And I was, as I was sharing with you and Darren, one of the things that I focused on is, I work with companies. So companies, they are very interested in buy-sell agreements. So in this case, what is particularly different is that if you and I, we are partners, um, if I pass away, you're going to have a problem because you're going to have to deal with my family, with my wife, with my son, with my children, and you don't know how they operate, and you don't know if they are able to perform something good for the company that you and I created.
You seem like you're in pretty good health, Franco. I don't think I have to worry about it.
So what? Yeah, I am. I have some pounds, a little bit, but yeah, I am. Yeah, I know that you're saying this because you love me, but anyways. So yeah, in that case, what you want to do is, just as a part of your operating agreement, you want to include a buy-sell agreement. So in that case, if something happens, you are going to receive the liquidity and the funds enough to pay to my heirs. So they're going to be happy. You're going to be happy. The company is going to be liquid enough, and everything is going to go smoothly from there.
Awesome. I don't want to let you hog all the space, so I got to ask Darren how you got into coaching. I left my job last year, and it was a passion of mine just to kind of help people. And I always interested in hearing people's stories on how they got into coaching and why. And yeah, so just start there if you can.
Yeah, you bet. My journey started a long time ago when I graduated from college and knew that I wanted to do something that allowed me to make a difference every day. And so my career started in human resources. And I spent 25 years in that career, in that profession, and working for different organizations over those 25 years, and just grew through my career, and started as a recruiter and became an HR manager, an HR director, a vice president, and then eventually made it into the CHRO role over that time frame. And as I went through that career, I really fell in love with the work I did in the organizational development space, leadership development space, and then particularly working one-on-one with leaders, especially healthcare leaders, and helping them become more effective as a leader. And about a year ago, I made a career decision and stepped away from the corporate role and stepped into this executive coaching role full time, because this is where I felt I could make the greatest impact. And not that I wasn't making an impact in my executive role, it just wasn't fulfilling me in a way that I felt was my greatest contribution. And so stepped away and jumped into it head first and committed to it, and have just been loving it ever since. And just the opportunity to work with leaders and help them grow, help them develop, help them gain self-awareness of who they are and what they want to be is why I jumped into it and why I do what I do.
Awesome. My hat goes off to anybody that's worked in HR for a long time. You have to wear so many different hats in HR, and you've got to deal with, problems within the company, the general public, every different aspect, hiring. I think that's probably one of the hardest jobs that there is. I mean, I've known a lot of HR professionals, and man, they are overworked and underpaid as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you have any stories you want to tell in the corporate world that maybe, I'm sure you have all kinds of stories if you're in HR for a long time, but.
Yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds. So like we said, if we ever wrote down every experience that we had, we'd have an amazing, hilarious, funny, sad, gross.
It'd be everything, right?
Gross book. But what makes human resources unique is you're working with people, and you're dealing with people issues and people problems. And one thing that I've learned in working in that space is, adults aren't much different than children.
We're identical, yeah.
and so they're just a little more wiser about when they do the things that they do. But I love the work because every day was a different day, but it was through that process when I saw how individuals would find themselves in a challenging space, somehow got in trouble, made a bad decision or a bad mistake, that instead of having pity on them, I always looked at it from a different lens of, okay, what's the experience this individual is having, and what can we do to create a better experience for them going forward if they so choose to take that path. And that's really just how I've been, been my makeup is I'm always looking for a better way. What's a better way to be, and how do we help people do that? And so I would have compassion with these folks and really strive to find out, what is it that you really want, and what is it you really want to become, and let's help you go down that path and look at how we can help you overcome those challenges, self-imposed most times, and in most instances they were self-imposed, but let's create some self-awareness around that and try to not step in so many of those holes as we go through our careers. And that's really where I found the love for coaching, and I did it internally when I was working in the corporate environment, and just didn't get to do enough of it. And that's why I made that decision to step away a year ago and do this full time because I felt my impact could be much more by having a intentional focus on coaching these leaders.
Yeah, that's a really good aspect to look at that. That's the way I've tried to look at everything that I've gone through. You don't ever really have failures. They're just learning experiences, right? And as long as you just look at them that way and understand, why you did what you did and what you need to do to change, to make sure that you're maybe approaching something differently and make more successful relationships, or, whether it's your job or relationships at home or business, then yeah, I think that's there's no better way to look at it. That's the only way. I don't think you can look at it any other way. Otherwise, you're just going to be in a world of self-pity, right? Because all of us make mistakes. There's no way around that.
Yeah. It's we're all imperfect human beings, and the best way to overcome that is become more aware of your imperfections and start to learn how to change and do things differently. And I'm a firm believer that you always have a choice in every situation and in every circumstance. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can choose how you respond to the situation you're in. And that's what defines who you are and your identity as a human being.
Yeah. I'll throw that one at you, Franco. So what do you have any failures you'd like to share that you considered learning experiences? I'm sure, it hasn't been the easiest, just in the last 10 years selling insurance. Everybody I've talked to that sells insurance, it can be difficult depending on, what group you're going after, or, how would you define that for yourself?
Well, definitely what I can tell you is I have made many, many mistakes. But one of the things that I really, it's kind of difficult for me to say, hey, it's okay, you did your best. It's when you know that people is not buying because they are not just focusing on what they need, because they are with so much urgency to take care of some other aspects, and they don't understand that this could become urgent any given moment, right? So sometimes people say, well, I have another priorities, I have this amount of coverage, and that's 20 or 30% of what they need. And you take a look at their children and you see someone 5 years old and you're saying, oh man. And the client is saying, okay, I have other priorities, and I understand that. It took for me like a while once when I had a meeting with someone 4 times, and he was saying yes. When I left his home, he said no. So I came back, he said yes again. Then I left and he said no again. And I said, okay, what's going on? And 1 week later, he had a heart attack and passed away. So to me, it was like, wow, what was my mistake here? And this is not about life insurance. This is probably about the way that I communicated some ideas to him, or the communication between us. So that's when you ask yourself, am I doing the best? What is something that I can do here? What is that I have to learn from this experience? So that's basically it. So, and let me tell you, to me, forgiveness in the professional field, it's something that I have to digest sometimes for many days.
Yeah, I think that image of perfection, if you try to carry some kind of image of perfection of what you should be doing or you are, you always let yourself down, right? Just do the best you can and trust, everything you're going through is best for you, right?
Yeah. Yes. You always trust that. And sometimes, and I'm sure that if something doesn't go the way you want, it's because there's a lesson to learn there. Yeah. There's something that you didn't learn yet, and you have to learn it. So yeah, the universe is telling you, hey, listen, you got to take this test again.
Yeah. So you got to tell me at least one good story. I'm ready to hear a story. Maybe one of your favorite stories in the last 10 years, Franco. Got to tell me a good story. You got any ready for me?
Telling you a good story. Oh, wow.
It can be insurance related, or maybe it was something that really made you feel good if you did something for somebody in the professional field.
Sure. I can share with you the following story.
Okay.
So I moved to the US 6 years ago. And when I came in here, I continued my life insurance business, but I decided to open another business, which was a home care franchise. I bought a home care franchise, home care assistance franchise. And at that time, just starting the business with the license, the permits and everything, it was kind of rough. So I was taking a look at my bank account balance, and it was going down and down and down, and not the revenue.
Right.
So at one point, I was severely out of my finances. I mean, I was having expenses way over my sales, and the business was in a really, really hard position. Really, it was tough because it was taking from me all of my time, all of my energy, but the results, it took a while to start. And once I remember that one night, and what I'm about to share is could be shocking, but it's the pure truth. So I one night I was desperate. Really, that's the word. I wasn't having a good time. I was very concerned about my personal finances too. My family, we came from another country. I took them all to live my dream and to fulfill our expectations and have a new life. So that day, before that night, I took that night to go for running. And that day, I remember that I took a look at the bank account balance, and I said, I have money for the next 22 days. That's all I have. No assets, no money, no nothing. And I had a few clients to call, but you never know when they are going to say yes, come and take care of my parents. So I went for that running, and I was running more like an exercise. It was more like I was running away from something. And I think it was the situation. So I started to talk to myself. Then, without even realize that, I just started to talk louder and louder. And then I started to scream, like, I needed to release all of that pressure, all of that. And at some point I stopped the running. I started to cry, and what I said is just, I opened my arms to heaven, and I said, please help me. I have nothing else to do. I don't know what else to do. Just help me. So 48 hours later, the client started to, the phone started to ring to 24/7 clients, which are the best clients that you always wish in that business. Sign up this very same week. Some other clients came back, and I started a new process after that release. 6 months later, I was having no debts. I owed nothing to the banks. And a year and a half later, I sold the business for profit.
Oh, that's an awesome story. And you
Yeah.
just kind of did that inner release, and it just probably it opened up the gates for you to accept what you didn't think you could get, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'll throw that question at you, Darren. Do you have any stories? That one's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah, that is kind of hard to beat, and as I reflect, probably one of the more meaningful experiences I had was probably been about 10 or 12 years ago, when I was brought into an organization to overhaul an HR department that had been struggling for many years, to the point where the operations team had basically said, we're going to put you in an office off campus. If we need you, we'll come find you. I mean, that's how bad the relationship had gotten. And when I was hired, the CEO at the time said, well, the existing HR director's got to go. They haven't served us well for many years, and keeping them around is not going to be any benefit to the organization. And I was new, first week on the job, and in my mind, I'm like, well, that's kind of harsh, and I asked permission. I says, can I have 6 months? And he said, yeah, you got 6 months, but I don't think you're going to have any impact there. And really, I took it upon myself not to take the easy route and say, okay, I could just go in and find a reason to terminate this HR director. But I took another route, and I want to understand what's going on with this individual to appreciate what is the appropriate action to take place. And over the course of the next few months, there was a lot of discussions and digging deep into what's going on, but still very much a resistance to change, resistance to be open and really articulate and talk about the challenges and what's going on with this person. And that's carried on for a couple more months. And of course, this 6-month time frame is ringing in the back of my head. And I just got real honest with the individual and shared with them, look, here's what the ask of me was. And I shared that, it was an ask to terminate your employment. And I'm not necessarily wanting to do that unless that's a decision that is right for the organization and right for you. But help me understand where you're coming from and the challenges you're having, and let's see what we can do. And the neat thing is this was an individual who had spent at this point in time 20 plus years with the organization, had come in at a very entry level role, and had worked themselves all the way up to this HR director. And to terminate someone like that after that many years of service just didn't feel right. And that was a turning point in our relationship. And over the course of the next 60 days, this person opened up. And what I had come to learn is this is an individual who was very passionate about the organization, passionate about the role that they were in, but had never had any real mentoring, any real development, and was just struggling being who they were in the role that they were, knowing that I'm failing, but I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to change my course. And so my commitment to this individual at the time was, lean into what I can offer, and let's see if we can pull through this. Long story short is that person remained with me for the remaining 5 years I was with the company. And after I left, was able to keep their career going until they made the decision it was time to retire. And it was an amazing thing to get that phone call and say, hey, thank you for everything, but I'm hanging it up, I'm retiring. And just to say thank you for having that patience and belief in me and seeing what I didn't see in myself. And as leaders, I think we're obligated to do more of that. It's easy to go in and just terminate someone. It's easy to go in and have a major impact in their life. But I think what separates the great leaders from good leaders is the ones who take the time to appreciate people and appreciate what's going on the inside to better understand what decisions should be made or actions should be taken. And that's something that stuck with me for many years and really was a strong driver for me to continue doing what I'm doing now. I just get to do that on a much bigger and grander scale now.
That sounds almost identical to my story. I've witnessed so many people get let go when I knew that there was a much better path. They just needed somebody to believe in them and, see that light that they had there, that and exploit it, right? You need that leadership to reach out, and great leaders do that. They bring out the best of everybody. So that's a really good message, I think.
Yeah.
I've been through so many different accidents and bad relationships in business, and to me, I don't think there's a difference between personal relationships and business relationships. They're all personal because when you interact at work, you're still building a relationship with those people, and you see them there. Usually you're there half the time, so you've got your family at home and you've got your family at work. It's really no different. I'm sure you feel the same way with the people that you're coaching, right? Those become personal relationships. Those aren't it's just business only, right?
Yeah.
You learn about each other and you learn to support each other, right?
Yeah, the thing I love about the coaching relationship, it's based on a foundation of trust. Um, and it has to be, because you get so intimate with the coach, the coachee or the client, because you're really digging deep into their deepest desires, wants, and challenges that they've had, and they open up, and so there's a lot of confidence and confidentiality that's established in that. But what what allows a coach to be very effective is how they connect with that client. And to your point, Brian, we don't have two brains. We don't have a work brain and a non-work brain. We have one brain. And within that brain, we've got a part of the brain that's called the limbic system. And that's where connection happens, because that's where emotion occurs. That's where you recognize emotion, feel emotion, and emulate emotion. And that's how people connect. People don't connect based on stats and figures and data. That's just, it is what it is. But people connect on that emotional level. And so when I'm working with my clients, one of the things we do is establish up front what our beliefs are, and what our values are, and get that alignment, and make sure that this is a relationship where that trust can build, and where we can really be a partner with the client in discovering themselves, and who they are and what they want to be. And what I have found as I've done this work is most leaders, especially most executives, don't carve time out of their day to take time to reflect on what is their purpose, what is their why for existence, what is their vision for themselves and for the people they lead, and what do they truly believe. Because they're so busy just running the business and building their career and building their resume and doing all these things and living in a way that people expect of them. And often when I meet with them and I say, what is it that you want for yourself? They will talk about, well, I want to be the good CEO, and I want to get this position. I want to do that. And I'm like, that's wonderful, but what do you really want? What is the life you want to create for yourself? And that's a very sobering, intimate question when you really get to the core of that, because usually you have to dig 3 or 4 levels to get to what they really, really want. And then when you
Most people
get
don't
there,
think about it.
yeah, they don't think about it. And, I was speaking with an executive earlier today, and he said, after much discussion, he said, if I could really do what I wanted to do, I would do X. And I said, when's the last time you thought about that? Oh man, that's been years. But when it pops in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome, but I can't. And when I said, what's holding you back? He said, I don't know. I said, why can't you do that? What's holding you back? I don't know. And that's the start of the journey, right? Is okay, let's discover it. That's what you really want. How can we bring it to life if that's what you desire? And that's what's impactful about the work in coaching is seeing that kind of recognition, awareness, and then getting them excited about life again, and overcoming the issues of frustration and burnout and tired and all that. It's really connecting back to who you really are and what you really want, and then let's find a way to make it happen.
I think we can close with that, Franco. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm sure you can associate in some ways. What do you want to do? I mean, I think I could talk about that for probably about 10 or 20 minutes, at least what I want to do, but I have so many things that I really want to do. But I'd like to hear what Franco wants.
Well, I do. One of the things that I really love to do is to help people. Finances, it's been my area of expertise, but not only that, I really enjoy by doing this. So this is one of the things. Then when you want to ask to yourself, what is that I want? Apart from this, with that some people can say, but that's job. It is a job if you do that like from 9 to 5, you feel the pressure and you're running behind someone. But if you really feel it, you're doing what you feel. So the different levels for this question that Darren mentioned, I think this is very important because sometimes people don't allow themselves to have the time to ask themselves, what is that I want? What is that I want for my life? What is that I want for my marriage, for my family? And at the end, how can I live this world by living it, being better than when I found it? So I totally agree with Darren. This is a question that to me, it made me make a pause and say, hey, can you answer this right now? I have to think about it. I have to think about it. But yeah, I mean, if you can live with passion and that passion is in whatever you're doing, that's something that is going to be very powerful. And that's your way. That's my way to help this world to become better. Even if I do something that I'm not different than the 1 million life insurance agents out there, it doesn't matter what you do. It's the way you do it. It's the way you communicate. It's the way that you feel your heartbeat and the way you establish connection with those people in front of you, which are screaming for help, but they just resist it, right? They resist it, but they are screaming for help. And I say, hey, I'm here for that. Don't worry. So yeah, that's it.
You already went through that, right? You had to scream for help and you got it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you have to, you have to surrender. You have to stop resisting. That's all.
Yeah, you got it.
Excellent, guys. I'm blessed to have you guys both here. Thanks for joining me today. And I don't know how to close out on that note. I have been following my passion now for about 14 months. And before that, I just never did. And it was finally, I had to get to a place where I just have to do that thing that I want to do. It doesn't feel like you're living your life unless you start to do those things that you're passionate about. So.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Brian. And thank you for having us on the show. But for most people, I ask them to start with, ask yourself, what is my purpose? Why do I exist? What am I here to do? And just spend time in that space and see where it takes you.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Franco. And we'll keep in touch, I'm sure.
All right. Take care, Brian. Nice to meet you, Franco.
Same here. So thank you so much. Beautiful moment. All the best for you guys.
All right. Take care now.